A powerful new moon in Virgo occurs on Saturday, August 23rd, setting the stage for the upcoming solar eclipse in Virgo in September. As it tightly squares Uranus, the new moon brings illuminating discoveries, breakdowns, breakthroughs, and chaos magic. I am here to tell you more and to break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, predictive, astrocartography, and electional astrology readings. If you enjoy my work, please press the like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, and press that notification bell. Watch more of my videos. That is how YouTube algorithm sends more audience my way, helps me grow. You can also say thank you by buying me a cup of coffee, a tea, or anything else your heart desires. I really appreciate that. Before we dive in, my astrology course begins in September, very, very soon. So join in. There's still spots left. You will learn, in 3 months, you will learn how to read charts, how to understand houses, aspects, make sense of the complex ancient language of the stars. And my goal is to explain everything in a simple, comprehensible way. So do not fear if you feel like it's all too complicated. I am here to help you. Register on my website. On my website, you can also book a personal reading to discuss the secrets of your natal chart, to look at the future, year ahead, or solar return. Solar return is great to do around your birthday. Are my predictive readings. There are also relationship consultations, and you can get a shorter reading or a natal chart reading and specify that you want me to elect the right moment for your wedding, your business, or to help you figure out the best place in the world to move to. The blessed, best place. Additionally, on my website, you can find a variety of products I create. I capture the most benevolent astrological moments and encapsulate them in candles and oils so that you can use them and you can take advantage of this transit even once it has passed. Since today we're talking about the new moon in Virgo, the new moon that happens near South Node, so it has potentially karmic cleansing, release, a little bit draining type of energy. I highly recommend my Moon in Cancer 3 candle, which captures moon in rulership, an emotionally stable, grounded, and nurturing sign of Cancer. It is beautiful and decorated with silver foil, silver being the metal of the moon. It smells like moonflower nectar, the flower of the moon, and it can increase abundance in your life, help you manifest, as well as improve sleep, fertility, and your emotional well-being. Especially recommended for anyone whose moon conjoins South Node natally, or if your moon is conjunct Saturn, even opposite square Saturn or Uranus or Chiron or Pluto. Those are not particularly friendly to the moon. Next, if your moon is in Capricorn or Scorpio, sign of detriment and fall, and if your moon is in the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses, which are very karmic, and the moon has to deal with a lot of challenges there instead of just chilling and having a good time. So thank you for listening. Let's talk about this new moon. First of all, like I said, it happens on Saturday, August 23rd, and it occurs at 2 a.m., approximately 2 a.m., but exact is 2:06 a.m. Eastern, so adjust for your time zone. If you're on the west coast of the US, it's going to be still Friday, August 22nd. The new moon occurs at 0 degrees 22 Virgo, and that's why we're actually going to get a solar eclipse in September in Virgo, because when you have a new moon at the very front door, at the entrance of the sign, oftentimes later in the month you get another new moon, in this case an actual eclipse in Virgo. And this new moon is especially important if you have planets between 0 and 4 degrees of mutable signs, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius. It is likely to affect you the most, versus the eclipse we have coming up in September might affect you more if you have planets at the back of the sign between 27 and 29 degrees of those signs. So what does this new moon mean? New moon is always the moment of conjunction between the sun and the moon. It's a lunar cazimi. You hear me talk about cazimis a lot, but we don't call it moon's cazimi, we call it a new moon. So it's a conception of something new for the moon. Since the moon is in Virgo, we might assume that new beginnings may pertain to Virgo area of your chart, so the house will be involved, but generally new beginnings in health, new beginnings in embodiment and taking better care of yourself, new beginnings in work and service to other people. Virgo is very much focused on helping other people, so new beginnings that involve sort of, you know, because South Node is involved. South Node is in Virgo this year. There is that kind of cleansing energy to this new moon. Even though we're setting forward on new projects and starting new things, there is that energy of like release and cleansing, maybe letting go of old habits and welcoming a healthier version of you through letting something go. Confronting karmic patterns, releasing self-doubt, releasing fears, releasing analysis paralysis, perfectionism, all these kind of energies that are stopping you from being happy and true to yourself. Yeah, releasing perfectionism, self-criticism, as I mentioned. The ruler of the new moon is Mercury in Leo, fresh from the retrograde. So we've had Mercury retrograding from late July into early August, asking questions of authenticity and wondering, you know, who am I? What makes me me? What makes me happy? What makes me joyful and authentic? And so the energy of this new moon too is, I think, like, how can I release anything that sabotages me? And how can I embrace my unique gifts to help other people? How can I give without being depleted, right? So a lot of this energy of something needing to be released in order to create a better balance. And of course, Uranus comes into play, right? The new moon occurs at 022 Virgo. And at the time of the new moon, we have Uranus at approximately 1 degree Gemini. So 1 degree 22. Yeah, 1 degree, 22 minutes Gemini. And so new moon is about a degree away from Uranus, but still pretty much strongly aspecting Uranus. So and Uranus has the power to disrupt. The Uranian energy is always that of unpredictability. It's major qualities that you can't fully know what Uranus will bring. All that you know is that it's going to be disrupting, right? Disruptive. So the way I see it is, there are new beginnings that happen in response to something Uranus creates. Like Uranus can be like a young child breaking something in your home, and you realize that you maybe need to declutter, or you need to move some of your items away, and you maybe in the process realize that you have too many things and you don't need all of those things. But it doesn't just have to be physical, it could be something else, like a mental health breakthrough, realizing something and then creating changes coming out of it. So there might be disruptions that throw you off balance initially, but then offer a chance to shed, release, and cleanse something. A good way to approach this new moon would be literally cleansing. So literally cleaning your space, decluttering your closet, cleaning your desk, even fasting. If medically you can fast and you enjoy fasting, don't do it if there are any issues with your health. Definitely consult your doctor because it's an important thing, you know, to consult a doctor about. Coming up with a plan, thinking about the future, being structured, right? Figuring out healthy goals that you can set for yourself. Even moving, going for a walk at the time of the new moon to combat any anxiety, any stresses, like taking a beat, pausing, meditating, breathing. All of that could be useful at this point. I'd love to hear how this resonates with you, and we're going to go through all of the 12 zodiac signs. If you're seeking more, if you want more astrology, you want more self-awareness and self-understanding, I know it's not going to be for everyone, but for those of you interested in growth and self-improvement, register for my natal astrology course. It begins on September 6th. So very, very soon, and in a very short time, 3 months, you will learn how to read natal charts. You will learn how to give readings to other people, how to feel more empowered, more aligned with yourself, and just generally, I think, happier and stronger. At least that's what astrology did for me, and I think it could do that for you too. All of that is on my website. On my website, you can also book a personal consultation. So starting with Aries rising, there's a new moon in your 6th house and a square to Uranus in the 3rd house. So Uranus in the 3rd can bring disruptions in your everyday life. It can bring some kind of crisis or some type of chaos, right? Out of which the magic comes out. So it feels like there is some kind of crisis, breakthrough, liberation in your everyday life. Let's say at work, a document disappears, or your boss gets sick and there's a lot of phone calls. And so out of it, with the new moon in Virgo, comes the opportunity to step up, to like take control, to declutter, to sort of welcome more responsibility, maybe, right? There might also be an opportunity to actually realize that this doesn't serve you and you don't want to deal with chaos. You actually would rather take a break and go live on a mountain somewhere, right? So there might also be a chance to let something go. It's a new moon, but because it's co-present with South Node, there's definitely this energy of non-attachment, non-action on some level, and like spiritual focus. So I'm curious how this resonates. If you're seeking more, book a reading on my website or register for my natal astrology course. If you are a Taurus rising, there's a new moon in your 5th house of romance, pleasure, parenthood, children, creativity. It is co-present with South Node, which gives it this cleansing, spiritual undertones. And it squares Uranus in your 2nd house. And so the square to Uranus in the 2nd house can bring a crisis, a breakthrough, some kind of liberation or change in your financial sector that then leads to new beginnings in your romantic relationship, or even new beginnings around raising your child, right? Maybe you get a sudden sum of money, or you spend money and you realize that you've actually miscalculated and you haven't budgeted properly, right? So there might be some type of like shakeup in the 2nd house of finances, but out of it comes up a new opportunity. Like you reach out to your partner for help and you embrace a different kind of relationship, or you figure out a way to parent your child without throwing money at them and buying them all the toys. Perhaps you go into the yard and you play in the mud and you get dirty together, or you go fishing together and new opportunity, new like closeness comes out of it. Creatively, right? 5th house dealing with pleasure and joy. There might be some type of breakthrough in the 2nd house in terms of understanding what your values are, what your priorities are, what you don't like versus what you like. And the new moon in the 5th might encourage you to maybe explore some spiritual interests, astrology. Sign up for my course. It begins in September and it's very, very close. So I feel like I have to shout about it from the rooftops. So yeah, like I think some type of development in your relationships, in your life, even getting pregnant suddenly could come up. Some type of like sudden development that involves priorities, values, finances, children, that then leads to a new beginning. Please share how this resonates, and for more, visit my website to book a reading or study with me. If you are a Gemini rising, there's a new moon in your 4th house and a square to Uranus in the 1st. The square to Uranus in the 1st suggests that you're breaking away from something. You're maybe serving as a Prometheus. You're getting ready for new beginnings, right? You want more freedom. You want to do, you maybe want to do work that is not tied to anyone. You want to be your own man or woman. And like you want to be free on many levels. And out of some kind of maybe Uranus in the first might be you saying no to something, or you quitting a job, or you discovering a new passion. There's a new moon in the fourth, so your familial relationships, your home, your living situation get affected by that breakthrough that you're experiencing. So this could be a chance to move, potentially, because you realize that you no longer want to live in a city that is crazy expensive and forces you to work at a job that you hate. It could be a chance to speak up to a family member about something that's been bothering you, and that's an interesting, what is that, Freudian slip? But yeah, speak about something that's been bothering you, right? And create a new dynamic in the family. There might also be a chance to get rid of a bunch of things and create freedom in your space. Start by opening space around you so that later you have space to follow the dreams that you have. So it could be very liberating. It could also suggest changes in the family dynamics, where maybe you're stepping into a role of caretaker, or you're actually separating from a role of a caretaker. Maybe you're hiring someone to take care of an elderly family relative, family member, and finding more freedom for yourself, because South Node is in Virgo, right? And there is that energy of like, what do we need to set aside? Where do we need to make a little bit of space? So with North Node and Pisces, we can follow our new dreams. Please share how this resonates. If your new dreams involve astrology, register for my natal course, for my astrology course, or book a personal reading. All of that is on my website. If you are a Cancer rising, there's a new moon in your 3rd house and a square to Uranus in the 12th house. New beginnings in communication, new beginnings in your relationships with siblings and neighbors, new beginnings in education, even new beginnings that involve moving, that come out of some kind of breakthrough that happens in therapy or in your sleep, or you get some kind of message through signs and other ways with Uranus in the 12th house. Uranus in the 12th wants you to move. It wants you to liberate yourself from old patterns. It wants you to liberate yourself from hidden enemies. And more often than not, in the 12th house, you are your own hidden enemy. So some kind of deep realization, or even a negative habit that gets the most of you, some type of challenge, a mental breakdown or breakthrough in therapy that leads you to change your everyday life, that leads you to start speaking up, right? The new beginning in communication, that maybe leads you to take action towards your dream, to be more proactive, become a writer, start studying, change the dynamic with the sibling, right? With South Node here, sibling and neighbor, there might actually be some kind of like release. Maybe you need to say goodbye to some people who are not respecting you and taking a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. Setting boundary, cleansing, right? Cleansing spiritually, cleansing physically, cleansing mentally and relationally. Do share how this resonates. For more, visit my website. Moon in Cancer is a perfect candle choice for you. You can also register for my natal astrology course. It begins in September, or book a personal reading on there. For the shiny Leo rising, there's a new moon in the 2nd house of money and values and a square to Uranus in the 11th. So the square to Uranus in the 11th brings some kind of break, surprise, sudden development, unexpected revelation in the house of friendships, networks, hopes, and dreams. And then out of that comes a new beginning of self-worth, new beginning in finances, new beginning in your investments and your priorities. Maybe you realize that you have a dream, and in order to achieve that dream, you need to rethink how you spend money. Maybe you realize that a friend never intends to pay you back, and out of that, you also come up with the decision to sue them. I don't know, that doesn't have to be the case, but it's an interesting one because like the Uranus in the 11th could be a sudden opportunity that comes your way, a sudden dream, but maybe that requires you to quit your job or to take some kind of financial risk. With South Node in your second, you're definitely working on paying off debts and letting go of any obligations and heaviness and entanglements you have with other people. So I feel like what might feel uncomfortable with Uranus in the 11th, what might feel like, I'm just adjusting, what might feel like challenging and stressful can actually be a very like liberating and opportune time. But it may involve friction and disagreements with friends, and out of that friction truth may be born, and some kind of like deep realization might happen that leads to financial or spiritual abundance. I'd love to hear how this resonates, and if you're seeking more, book a reading on my website and register for my natal astrology course. It's less than a month away, very soon, very close. For the beautiful Virgo risings, there is a new moon in the first house of identity, self-image, body, style, in a square to Uranus in the 10th. And so there is some kind of new beginning in how you express yourself, how you present yourself, that comes out of a breakthrough, a liberation, freedom, and change in your professional sector. So if it's disruptive, right, this could be a difficult project. This could be you quitting your job or getting fired. Hopefully not, but I'm just thinking of like what could be disruptive, right? It could also be like a job offer that requires you to get out of your comfort zone and sort of take a leap of faith. So it doesn't have to be negative. And then with the new moon in the first, you're shedding an old version of yourself and you're embracing new possibilities. Maybe the new job requires you to dress differently. Maybe it requires you to move. Maybe it requires you to work, to think differently, right? Like with South Node in your first all year, you're letting go of the old ways of being. You're letting go of perfectionism and self-criticism and like a lot of kind of negative tendencies. You're cleansing yourself of a lot of things. And so with Uranus in your 10th house and a square to the new moon, it could really be fun and liberating, but first you'd have to go through yourself and you'd have to talk to your biggest critic. But I feel like, yeah, it sort of reads as an exciting opportunity in the career that may be stressful at first and maybe uncomfortable, but ultimately leads to more freedom and unique opportunities. Please share how this resonates. If that means you're thinking of studying astrology and that's your unique professional opportunity, you can join my course on my website. It begins in September and it can be really eye-opening and a lot of fun. You can also book a reading on my website. For my lovely Libra risings, there's a new moon in the 12th house and a square to Uranus in the 9th. The new moon in the 12th might lead to a liberation of letting go of a bad habit, of a self-defeating tendency, becoming more self-aware. And that liberation may be connected to the square to Uranus in the 9th house, which could be a conversation with someone foreign or a teacher or a mentor, even an astrologer, right? 9th house rules astrologers. So maybe even new piece of knowledge that comes your way. Uranus in the 9th can be a sign of you traveling, of you exploring religion, philosophy, learning a different language. Something happens in your mindset with Uranus in the 9th that is freeing and changing, and some kind of discovery that may happen that perhaps throws you off balance and initially makes you uncomfortable, right? And maybe distracts you from your progress, but actually in the long run, it can be helpful. And so the new moon in the 12th will be a chance to let go of fear, let go of self-judgment, self-criticism, self-doubt, embrace new opportunities. Maybe it's about becoming a teacher yourself or moving to a different place, right? With Uranus in the 9th, joining some kind of religion, joining an astrology course. My course begins in September. If you are getting ready, if you're thinking about it, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Highly recommend. But yeah, new moon in the 12th might also be a realization that you need to take better care of yourself, that you are a beautiful but sometimes fragile creature, right? Human being, and you need break, and you need some peace, and you need to retreat and take it slow sometimes, right? Like maybe it's also an opportunity to be like, I'm actually gonna step back and take care of myself. So yeah, like I think committing to spiritual interests, releasing things, healing, and with Uranus in the 9th, it can either be a disruption that ultimately is positive or a negative disruption that leads you to prioritize self-care. I'd love to hear how this resonates, and for more, to register for my course, visit my website. You can also book a reading on there. If you are a Scorpio rising, there's a new moon in your house of friendships, networks, hopes, and dreams in a square to Uranus in the 8th. So Uranus in the 8th can bring a disruption, a crisis, some kind of cutting of ties. In the 8th house, it would be maybe a change in a friendship that comes out of a financial difficulty. Let's say somebody owes you money and they're not paying you back, and they tell you that they never intend to pay you back because blah, blah, blah. And so you decide you don't want to be friends with this person, or it's not even necessarily about money. Uranus in the 8th can reveal something, right? Like 8th house is this realm of you give me this, I give you that, where you have a spoken or unspoken agreement with someone. So Uranus can be the time that agreement gets cut, it gets severed. And so the new moon in the 11th might be an opportunity to rethink your friendships. Uranus in the 8th might also be about illumination of some interest or illumination of something that is of value to you. And then the new moon in the 11th is a suggestion of new beginnings in friendships, because you've discovered that you love astrology and you want to study, and you sign up for Anastasia Does Astrology course, right? Which you can do on my website. But yeah, maybe you join some kind of spiritual group, or a book club, or something else that is joyful to you. With South Node in the 11th, the entire year and even half of the next year, there is this deep cleansing going on in your friendships. And also transformation in terms of your dreams and what is of value to you, right? With North Node in the 5th, it becomes more about like play and pleasure and children and parenthood. So I think friendships are spotlighted here, passions are highlighted here, and spirituality. Do share how this resonates. For more, book a reading or register for my course at anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Sagittarius rising, there's a new moon in your 10th house of career, status, and reputation in a square to Uranus in the 7th. So there's a lot going on, right? The square to Uranus in the 7th is a breakdown of a relationship or a partnership. Let's say a business partnership ends, and you have to figure out what you're doing. Are you keeping a business? Are you going to dissolve a business? What's going to happen? Or let's say your partner gets an exciting offer to go work in Bali, and you're like, do I go? Do I say goodbye to my job? Am I going to try to work remotely? Can I even work remotely? So some type of new beginnings that may have an energy of dissolution and letting something go, because South Node is also in Virgo, and South Node really urges you to prioritize your spiritual health and to prioritize your maybe home and family, with North Node being in the 4th house. So there is this sense of like something is shifting in your career. It may be even the fact that you're starting to worry less about not being perfect or not getting things done at the speed that everybody expects you to do, because you're like, I take time, I get things done, my work is organized and on point, so stop telling me what to do, right? Like you sort of speak up and assert yourself, which is really great. But it looks like there is a new beginning in your professional life in response to something happening in relationships, business partnerships. Maybe you get a unique offer. My books are falling down. Just a second. But yeah, it could be fun. La 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 la. So many books. Thank you for being patient. Yeah, so an exciting possibility that comes out of like maybe you get a business offer and it's uncomfortable to you because you've never done things like that before, but in discomfort might lie a breakthrough and a unique chance. Perhaps you're thinking of studying astrology. If you are, register on my website or book a reading, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Capricorn rising, there's a new moon in your 9th house and a square to Uranus in the 6th. So here we have new beginnings in education, in travel, in writing, publishing, faith, legal matters that come out of a breakthrough, breakdown, crisis, liberation, or surprise in your everyday, in your house of work, health, and service. So if this is health, right? Uranus in the 6th might reveal health issue, some kind of, maybe, I don't know, it could be like a vitamin deficiency, as benign as that, right? But it spurs you and makes you want to study. And so the new moon in the 9th is like something happens. Let's say you get sick with something, or you realize that you maybe read an article on microplastics and you're like, I'm going to learn all about it. And so with new moon in the 9th, you like go in, you kind of dive into new knowledge. Professionally, right, Uranus in the 6th could be maybe a change of status professionally, a new job, or you decide to quit a job. And then again, with the new moon in the 9th house, there is a perspective shift that may come from that. There is a chance to study something new. There is an adventure that you might go on. There might also be a completion of something, or like priority shift, because the new moon in the 9th is co-present with South Node in Virgo, also in your 9th house. And it really urges you to like let go of a fear that you don't know enough, that your writing is not good enough. So it might also be the square to Uranus in the 6th might be a breakthrough around feeling like, I'm just gonna do it. And even if I'm not ready, I'm going to do it anyway. So the new moon in the 9th might encourage you to work on your writing projects, to work on your legal projects. If you are a lawyer, right, there might be some kind of legal liberation. But I think it also stands to be like a really philosophical new moon, where you realize that some things do not need you to be stressed about them. So maybe some crisis that happens makes you be like, well, what if this health issue came about because I was too stressed or too hard on myself? Or like, oh, maybe this job matter takes too much of my energy and I'm actually just gonna like turn off my laptop and be done for the day, right? Just sort of, I'm done, I'm out. Do share how this resonates. If you're looking for more, if you're ready to take astrology to the next level, register for my course. It begins in September. It's called Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul. You can register at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also book a personal reading on there. For the lovely Aquarius risings, there's a new moon in the 8th house, the house of debts, loans, taxes, shared finances, death and rebirth, healing mysteries, and a square to Uranus in the 5th house. So the first thing that comes to mind, Uranus in the 5th, you get pregnant. And the new moon in the 8th suggests that, oh, now you need to work on sharing money and making joint plans with someone else and being vulnerable and being more trusting, right? Uranus in the 5th doesn't need to be pregnancy, but it could be some kind of creative opportunity. It could be a new romantic relationship. Maybe you are meeting someone and they're foreign, and now the new moon in the 8th, you're like, oh, maybe I'll go live with them, and you know, they know everyone. I don't have a job yet there, and I'll sort of rely on them financially. There might be some kind of like breakdown of a creative partnership, or even breakdown of a romantic partnership, and as a result having to figure out who pays for what, right? Like some type of like divorce proceedings, if you're involved in that at all. Like new moon in the 8th might be like, okay, let's figure it out. Let's talk about our finances. Let's get it all out in the open. Changes to the partner's finances are also possible. But somehow Uranus in the 5th, maybe it's also like a sign that Uranus in the 5th is urging you to explore. And, it might be suggesting that you're thinking of opening your marriage, or dating people you haven't dated before, or like being more free with your self-expression. Let's say you're an artist and you just sort of take leaps, and it might feel uncomfortable with the new moon in the 8th, with the new moon in Virgo, right? Like, because you have this maybe a little bit of like obsessive controlling energy when it comes to money, when it comes to spending, when it comes to risk taking. But Uranus, I think, is like urging you to take that risk and to work on like trusting other people. And South Node, of course, suggests that it's time to let some of your outdated beliefs go. So it's a new beginning, but it comes with this karmic healing, cleansing type energy. Do share what you think. For more, book a reading on my website or register for my Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course, which is less than a month away. And it will help you understand yourself and learn to read natal charts and improve your relationships in the process. For my lovely Pisces risings, there's a new moon in the 7th house and a square to Uranus in the 4th. The new moon before the solar eclipse next month. So we got 2 major exclamation marks, especially next month, but this one is still important because it paves the way for the eclipse. So new moon in the 7th is new beginnings in relationships. If you're single, meeting someone. If you're in a relationship, getting engaged, getting married, getting pregnant, right? Maybe it's a sudden pregnancy. Maybe it's an unexpected pregnancy with that square to Uranus in the 4th. Maybe there is some kind of break in the family, like your partner's grandfather dies and they go through this difficult emotional time, and it brings you closer, it brings you together. Maybe there is a breakdown in the home, in your home or their home, and you're kind of forced to live together, right? There may be new beginnings in relationships that come out of some kind of crisis, some kind of change, some kind of challenge involving home, family, and living situation. With South Node also being in Virgo and being a big player in the next month's eclipse, you're also transforming certain expectations in relationships potentially. And maybe you're releasing old wounds and healing something and cleansing something and like letting go of criticism and perfectionism in relationships, professional or personal, and welcoming more soulful spiritual connections. I'd love to hear how this resonates. If you're ready to make a spiritual connection with yourself, register for my Natal Astrology course. Come study with me. It begins next month, and you will learn how to read charts and how to live life that is more aligned and full of meaning. All of that is on my website, as well as the readings I offer. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a beautiful new moon. Be ready for a little bit of chaos and magic that comes from the square to Uranus, but it should be pretty decent, I think, overall. So do share any comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.